Okay, so welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm reacting to a TikTok that my friend sent me about Zendaya's rise in fashion. But before I continue, if you want to know how to learn about fashion more effectively, I have an ebook which you can find in the description below. Definitely a good read if I say so myself. But yeah, on that note, let's get straight into the video.
Here's the clever way that Zendaya became fashion's it girl. It wasn't always easy for her to get the clothes that she loved. So her stylist, Law Roach, came up with a new strategy.
That's interesting that, because we think of Zendaya now, of course she's like a massive celebrity, really famous, really well known for acting and fashion and all sorts of things, right? But even her, when she was first starting out many years ago, it was hard for her to get the clothes that she wanted. And for guys that don't know, fashion, like most things, has this hierarchy where if you're not deemed as important enough, you might ask for things and they'll just say no, or a big brand will just give you some clothing and be like, you have to wear that and nothing else. It's almost on a vibe of like, take what you're given. But suddenly when you become a big name, you can ask for whatever you want. You can even get things customized for you by like some of the biggest brands. It's just crazy how the more famous and more important you're done, like people go above and beyond the same person that you were rejecting in turn.
He would dress her up in clothes that other celebrities had already worn, it girls like Emily Ratajkowski, Rachel Roy, Miroslava Duma, and various others, and that way she would land on Who Wore It Better list.
Oh, so that's quite interesting. I think that's a really smart strategy, especially because when other people have worn something, brands are more likely to give it to you because someone else has already worn it first. Especially if they deem you as not important. So using that strategy to build her profile and build Zendaya's personal brand is definitely a really smart strategy by her stylist, Law Roach. One reservation I have though is that as a stylist, is it ethical to essentially copy other people's looks? And some of the looks weren't straight copies. What Law Roach would do, let's say someone has worn a certain type of pants, he would put Zendaya in the same pants but style the shoes and the top and the upper half of her body differently. So it's kind of like a different look even though it's the same piece. So even when people are doing like Who Wore It Better, it is a testament also to Law Roach's styling, but it's always easier when you have something to work with than not. It's like being, in my case, a journalist. Like as a journalist, if I'm writing about something that loads of people have written about, it's a lot easier to get facts than it is if you're the first person. You might have to interview the person directly who's involved, and you have to do so much more work than if other people have already done it and you're just another one of the people doing it. So ethically, I don't know how that is. But in the case of Law Roach, it's a bit different because Law Roach is a really famous stylist. Law Roach, like Met Gala looks, TV shows. Law Roach has an insane body of work and is clearly a talented stylist. But I don't know how ethical that is, sort of styling someone based on looks that already exist and clothing pieces that have already been worn by other people. I don't know. It's almost like plagiarism in a way. It's like you're plagiarizing another stylist's work. But I still think it was a smart strategy in terms of building Zendaya's brand and personal profile.
And with enough persistence and consistency, eventually she ended up becoming the fashion girl we know her as today. Sometimes when it comes to building your brand, you've got to find creative avenues to really get to the next level. Here's where Law breaks it down in detail.
That's another way I built my career though. I would only put Zendaya in things that everybody else had worn. 16 years old, she's 16. Who's gonna wear it better than her?
Did you hear what he just said? That's so interesting. He said that essentially Zendaya was like at the time 16 years old, like really tall. And he said basically, how's she not gonna wear it better than anyone else? And that's hilarious because it just shows you, like in fashion, we like to be really inclusive and, you know, say that beauty standards don't matter, but then people praise Zendaya for, you know, fitting into the general beauty standard and she's literally wearing sometimes the same outfit that other people wore before her and didn't get praised as much. So it literally just tells you that like, this is how much beauty standards can play an effect, because he even said like, you know, she's 6 foot tall, she's young, how is she not gonna wear it better? And that has, age and height has nothing to do with like objectively if something looks better or not, if you know what I mean. So it's just based on the body that the clothing is on rather than how the clothing's put together sometimes. Obviously not all the time. Like I said, Laura Rich is a really good stylist, but sometimes it's just based on who's wearing it. And that just tells you a lot about fashion and the way people judge fashion and the way people critique fashion. Very interesting.
People literally go to the shows and they'll say, "Law, someone already wore that," or "Such and such wore that." Such. I was like, "Can we?"
That's
I was
cool.
like, "If you don't mind, I don't mind."
Yeah.
And so what happened is she began to build press off who wore it better, and she would always wear it better. So it was those things, because I didn't come from anyone's lineage. You know, unfortunately, I didn't have a mentor. I was never anyone's assistant. I was never an intern. So when I came to LA,
Oh, that's a really good point that Laura Rich just made about like not being anyone's assistant and having to come up yourself, and not being anyone's intern. That is really important, because I've always felt like people that don't come from really privileged backgrounds or have parents that are in the industry that you want to go into, it can be really hard to make it. And in Laura Rich's case, if it had to take coming up with a smart idea, like, you know, putting Zendaya in clothes that other people have worn to get her on who wore it better. That's so smart. And sometimes that's what it takes to make it in the industry. And even though I did say that I don't know ethically as a stylist how ethical it is to be working off of looks that already exist. But if that's what he used as a springboard to make him a big stylist, then I think it makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, it's so hard to get noticed in this industry. Like, I can remember as a journalist, I used to try and write for so many different publications and no one was hearing it. And then at a point I was just like, you know what, these publications, I'm just some random guy, they don't know who I am, they don't care, so I'm just gonna like make my own YouTube channel, and found my own magazine. And it wasn't until I made my own magazine, made my own YouTube channel, and built my audience that now I don't even like pitch to magazines anymore. They come to me like, "Oh, would you like to write for us? Like, we're open if you want to write for us." And that's sort of sometimes what it takes. It takes a lot of work. It takes thinking outside the box. It takes doing things differently than things are normally done in the industry. And that is very commendable. It reminds me of fashion designers. So a lot of fashion designers get pigeonholed into this sort of mentality of, oh, that's a t-shirt designer, he designs t-shirts. And there's this elitist mentality that unless you go to like a big fashion school as a designer, that you're not good, which is so weird, because some designers literally cannot afford to go to school. Like, it's not cheap to go to Parsons or FIT or FIDM. Like, it's expensive as hell, especially if you're not from New York State, then it's more expensive from someone coming out of state to go to a school that's in a different state in the US, right? So it's just like, and even in the UK, like, we get student loans for school, but if you're an international student, then that isn't open to you. So if you're not a UK citizen, so like, not everyone can afford to go to school, and not everyone has that privilege. It's such an elitist and like privileged point of view. And therefore, some designers, even though they have really elaborate ideas of the type of clothing they want to make, they don't have the opportunity to do that because money is like a really big barrier, right? So they have to make t-shirts, sell t-shirts, make a profit from that, build their business to a point where, oh, now I can make the abstract dresses and jackets I wanted to make. A lot of designers are in that boat, and just because they started making t-shirts, people are like, oh, that's just a t-shirt brand, he started making t-shirts, he doesn't know anything about fashion, he's not a good designer. It's a very silly and privileged mentality to have, and that's literally what, as Laura Rich was saying, that is what it reminded me of.
I had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so what I've
learned
learned really quickly, I was like, this game is about press.
Yeah.
So let's.
But yeah, there was really good TikTok. It provided some really good insight on how Zendaya built her personal brand. I think more recently, more so than ever, because there's always been a thing, like I said in my last video, that celebrities and fashion has gone hand in hand. But I think back then, and a lot of people did make this point in the comments, that there was more of a symbiotic relationship between designers and celebrities, in terms of the celebrities really cared about the fashion. They were really into the fashion and really wanted to wear it. Whereas now, I think a lot of celebrities view the fashion industry as a springboard to build your personal profile, because obviously if you're a fashion icon as a celebrity, you can get brand deals with big fashion brands, and it makes, you know, your personal profile bigger, and it leads to more business opportunities in different avenues, and you can start beauty businesses and fashion businesses. And so even though now we have celebrities like Rihanna, A$AP Rocky, you know, Kanye West, these are people, P. Diddy, these are people that actually care about the fashion. But then you have other celebrities that genuinely only see being involved with fashion as like an economic thing, which I guess it is what it is. But comment down below your thoughts on how Zendaya came up, and I'll be back with another video very soon.